with texts so far, but we haven't discussed about the different CSS properties that you can use on the text which you add in a web page. So this video is completely dedicated to working with fonts and what are the different CSS properties you can use with the text that you add in an HTML. So let us start learning with iDigitalpreneur. Now, the first property that we're going to discuss is something called the font family, and it is used to specify the font style and fallback fonts of the text that is across your web page. And this is the syntax that we follow. We use the font family and then we specify which particular font we want to use, separated by a comma, and then we can specify all of the other fallback options. Now, why do we need a fallback option in a font? This is owing to the fact that there are some browsers which might not support a particular type of font that you have added in your HTML page. And in case the browser is not able to render that font, it needs to fall back to one of these fallback fonts that you have specified so that the text is at least displayed. It is not a mandate thing to do, but if you specify fallback fonts, you can be rest assured that the text for which you have added a specific font, it will always get displayed no matter what, even though the text is not getting displayed in the font style which you specified it to be. So this is always a good practice that you specify multiple fallback fonts and make sure that it is consistent, or your web page text is consistent across different devices for different users. So let's discuss about font family, and I will continue my discussion from the previous video itself. I have a paragraph inside of my section and I will specify a font. I will change the font from whatever the font of this is to something else. So for this, I will use the paragraph tag and I will use the font family. And in VS Code, the moment you type in font family, you will get all of these different fonts which are available as part of your inbuilt font family present in your system. There are ways in which you can export or import different other fonts from the internet as well. We'll see one of the ways, but VS Code gives you different fonts available here and you can select one of them. So let's just select Georgia Times Roman. And now this essentially means that the font is now changed to Georgia. If I comment this back out, see what the font is all about. And now once I comment this back, you will see that the font has changed. So essentially it is rendering out Georgia, and in case the browser does not understand Georgia, it will fall back to Times Roman, and then if Times Roman is not present, it will fall back to Times, and if case the Times is not present, it will fall back to any of the serif fonts. So serif is a type of font and there are different fonts as well. Similarly, you can apply any other font as well. So let's just see what VS Code gives us. So I want to apply this one. And now you can see that the font is completely different from what we specified it earlier. This is how you specify a font family. Now, let us assume that you want to use a third-party font which is not present in your system. You can go on some external website. So in my case, I will be going on Google Fonts. There are other third-party aggregators which provides you font, but Google Fonts being the most consistent one. Just search in Google Fonts and go on Google Fonts. And now you can search for any font which you want to add in into your web page. So I'll scroll down and I'll see which font which I can use. So let us say I want to use this one, Roboto Condensed. I click on it. And now once I scroll back, I scroll down, I can see different variations of the same font. And these are basically different font weights. We'll discuss about font weights in a few moments. But these are the different variations of the fonts, and you can ideally type in your text and you can see what your text for that particular font will look like. And let us just say that I want to use particular font weights in my website. So I want to use the regular 400. So I will select this. And I also want to use the bold 700. So I'll add this as well. So once you do this, you click on the tiles icon here in case this pane is not visible, and it shows you all of the selected fonts you have selected in the site as well, and it gives you a way to use these fonts in your CSS file. Now there are two ways. You can either link the font CDN directly into your HTML page, which is ideally the most performant and the most safest option. There is another option of directly importing these files into your CSS, although we don't recommend that you use import statements a lot. Try to use the link statement, and now you can press on this copy icon. It will copy all of this text. Now go back to your HTML, and just before the link of your style.css, after your title, paste in the font link. Now you have linked the font CDN into your HTML page. Now you have just linked the font, but you haven't actually started using it. And just down below, if you scroll down, it will show you what font family you need to use in order to use this particular font. And you can just copy it right here and go back to your CSS and just delete this font because we don't require it anymore. Paste it, and now it says that use the Roboto condensed font, which we have already imported in our HTML page. And in case this font is not available, or because of some reason this font does not get rendered, fall back to any of the sans serif font available in the system. Now if I go back, now you can see that my font has changed to Roboto condensed. This is one of the easiest ways of integrating a third-party font into your HTML. There are other ways in which you can download the entire font and store it locally in your code base, and then you can use different CSS properties, other CSS properties, but we won't go into the complexities of that yet. Now, the next property that we are going to study is the font color, and this is pretty obvious. It is used to specify the color of the text. Very common, very commonly used CSS property. And the syntax is very simple. You use the color property with a value. It could be any of the values which you define. So here I will say that the color needs to be, and then it could be either of the solid colors in name, or it could be hex code values, or uh, uh, it could be HSL values, or it could be RGB values. So here I'll just use maybe blue violet, hit on save, and now the color of my text has changed to that particular color. This is as simplest as it can get. Now let's discuss about font weight, and font weight is nothing but the thickness of the font. It does not specify the size of the font. It simply specifies the thickness of the font. And as you saw in Google Fonts, there were multiple variations of the same font with 300, 300 bold, 400, 700. So those were basically different font weights. That means different thickness. And the thickness of any font in CSS varies from a range of 100 to 900 and inclusive of 100 and 900. So it starts off with 100 and it can go to any value up until 900 with a demarcation of 100. So the possible values of font weights are 100, 200, 300, 400, and so on and so forth. And the way you add in the font weight is using the font weight CSS property, and then you define one of the values between 100 to 900 with a demarcation of like 100 as well. So we'll see what we can do. And here you can see, let's just remove the CDN, because now in case you are using a third party font in your system, you need to make sure that the current font weight is also exported, or rather it is also imported in your HTML. Because if you have only imported a particular font inside of your system and you are using a different font weight, for example here I have only imported the 400 and the 700 font weight, but in case I want to use 500, that won't be possible until and unless I add in or I import the font weight 500 font as well. So for this, I will first of all remove my font, and I will remove this as well. And let's just keep this any other inbuilt one. So this is fine. Now I can go ahead and say font weight, and now it will give me all of the possible values it is possible to add in for the font weight, starting off with 100. If I do 100, you will see that the text is now a little bit lighter, and as we keep on increasing the thickness, it will keep on darkening. It will start becoming more and more thick, and I can keep on increasing the size, and you can see that it is getting darker and darker. So it goes up until, so after 500, you can see there is a considerable amount of thickness being added, and you can go to 700 as well, you can go to 800 as well, and you can go to 900 as well. There are other values possible as well, something called bold, bolder, and lighter. So bold is essentially the same as 700. So if you write 700 or if you write bold, both have the same effect. Bolder is essentially, it is bolder than the current inherited value. So let's say you have different texts present and each of them have a value of 500. Bolder will increase it to 600. So it is a relative font weight value. And lighter is essentially, it takes in the value of all of the text present in a current context and makes it 100 less than the current value. That is what bolder and lighter does. And normal is essentially the same as 400. So any normal text that you see will have a font weight of 400 itself. So you can play around with the values to kind of darken and make it much more bold and thicker in terms of the visual aspect using the font weight property. Now let's discuss about line height and letter spacing. Now line height is used to specify the distance between two lines of text. So let's say you want to increase, you have a paragraph of 4 or 5 lines of text and you want to increase the spacing between two lines of paragraph, you use the line height property. And in case you want to increase the distance between two characters of a text, you can use the letter spacing property. Let's see them in action, what I mean by them. So inside here, I will first of all say line height, and now I can define any of the value using the CSS measurements which we have already studied. So let's say the line height, I want it to be maybe 1 m or 1 rem. And now you can see that the lines are much more condensed, but let me keep on increasing the size. Let's say I give it a value of 4 rem, and now you can see that the spacing between two lines of text has increased to 4 rem. 4 rem essentially transforms to 4 into 16, which is 64 pixels. And this is the use of line height. You can play around with the values. You can make it maybe 30 pixels, or maybe you can make it any other values like 2 m's, and you can get your desired output. The next property is letter spacing, which is letter spacing, and this acts the same way like line height. You can specify a value. So let's say I give 1.1 rem, and you can see you get this spacing between each and every character of the text. You can play around with the values. You can give it some better values to kind of make your text a little bit different from what you are actually typing in, so that you can get the desired output. Now let's talk about text transform, and it is essentially used to control the capitalization of the text. By capitalization, I simply mean if you have a text and you want to make it all uppercase or all lowercase, or you want to capitalize that particular text, you use the text transform property. So for example, in this paragraph, let's say I want to make each and every letter an uppercase. So inside of my paragraph, I will write text transform, and I will make it uppercase. And now you can see each and every character of my text is now an uppercase. By default, it is lowercase, or by default, it is capitalized. Sorry about that. It is capitalized, or it is, so by default, the value for text transform is none, and it will respect the capitalization of the original text But in case you want to make it something else, let's say I capitalize it. Now you can see each character of the first, like each first character of the word has now been capitalized, and you can make this lowercase as well, and it will make every letter in lowercase. This is the use of text transform when working with texts. This kind of brings us to the end of working with fonts. Now, there are other text properties as well, but these are the most commonly used ones, and mostly 95% of the times you will be using these properties which I have mentioned here. We will continue our discussion with other CSS properties. Till then, I will see you all in the next